This is The Fifth Estate, a conversation between young African scholars from the Fort Hall School of Government and Professor Mutahi Ngunyi. When opposites unite, a new order of things is birthed. This is called the dialectics, the unity of opposites, or the negation of the negation. When enemies embrace, the power of healing is unleashed. And this week, Uhuru embraced Raila in Murang'a and Kalonzo and Wetangula at State House. This was the negation of the negation, a unity of opposites, which means a new order of things is about to be born. The first sign of the order is that Uhuru has become the monk who sold his Ferrari. In the past, we accused Uhuru of running a Ferrari presidency with 2 seats only. We wanted him to sell the Ferrari and buy a Matatu presidency. He resisted. But after the handshake, Uhuru decided to sell the Ferrari in favor of a Matatu presidency. This is how Raila, Kalonzo, and Wetangula became appendages to the presidency. However, we have a twist. Ruto has refused to get out of the Ferrari. He wants to spin this Ferrari presidency in 2022. Is he serious?
William Ruto said he will support the referendum, but he said that he will do so depending on the referendum question. If Ruto is unfamiliar with the referendum question, we will pose it for him. The question has 3 parts. 1. 2017 presidential election was recorded in the Global Index of Nonsensical Experiments as the most expensive election on earth. We lost 1 billion shillings every working hour for 123 days between August and November 2017. In total, we lost 1 trillion shillings, or 40% of the 2017 budget, electing a president. No wonder the country is broke. The referendum question for Ruto, therefore, is simple. Is this justified? Can we afford to burn 1 trillion shillings every 5 years electing a president? 2. 1 year before a presidential election, the country freezes. No expenditure. 1 year after the election, the country freezes. No expenditure. Every 5 years, the country freezes for 2 years because of anxiety over presidential elections. Every 5 years, we are unproductive 40% of the time. And the referendum question for Ruto, therefore, is this. Is this right? What does it profit a man to gain the Ferrari presidency and lose the soul of the nation?
And here is the third referendum question for Ruto. Every presidential election has attracted bloodshed since the 1960s. Historical records show that 1,000 people were killed in 1992, 1,000 in 1997, and 1,000 in 2007. In the 2017 election, children were killed, and more would have died if Uhuru had not preached Amani, Amani, Amani. Similarly, if Raila had not done the handshake, the tensions would still be simmering. The referendum question for Ruto, therefore, is this. If every presidential election costs us 1 trillion shillings, 2 years of economic paralysis out of a 5-year term, and 1,000 innocent lives, including children, is it worth it? Is it worth it? If Ruto was asking for a referendum question, this is the question. Our founding fathers told us that direct democracy was a con. It will collapse our nations. But in their graves, we disagreed with them. We introduced fancy democratic experiments and fancy constitutions. The experiments brought us war. 1,000 dead people every election and 1 trillion lost every election. Bure kabisa. The third referendum question to Ruto, therefore, is this. If our founding fathers think we are wrong, is Ruto right?
Albert Einstein taught us that if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, the fish will live its entire life believing that it is stupid. And this is Kenya for you. We believe that democracy will bring us progress. But when it brings us bloodshed, we start believing that we are stupid. Yet, at the core, our democracy is failing because we are trying to get a fish to climb a tree. And this is what Raila is telling us. He's telling us that a fish cannot climb a tree. That direct democracy is not a catalyst for development. It is a result of development. Kenya will not develop because it has a democracy. It will have a democracy because it is developed. It is all a matter of sequencing. But Raila is not asking us to abandon democracy altogether. He is telling us that we cannot have the same presidential system as the United States. It is as stupid as expecting a fish to climb a tree. What we need is a parliamentary system or indirect democracy. And in our view, Raila is not wrong. The Constitution is wrong.
A young mother entered a toy shop. She picked one of the toys and was intrigued. Then she asked the salesman, "Isn't this toy too complicated for a small child?" To this, the salesman replied, "It is an educational toy. It is designed to adjust the mind of the child to the weirdness of the world. Whichever way the child puts it together, it is wrong. And this is our constitution for you. Whichever way you put it together, it is wrong. And maybe it was designed as an educational toy to teach us how weird the world is. For starters, it was written for us by foreigners. Weird. It was a patchwork of playful experiments that have failed. Weird. Devolution is the only experiment that has not failed. Fact. The Constitution had over 100 errors. Weird. Ruto opposed it from day one, calling it Katiba Mbichi. Fact. Then Raila promised that we would change it after it passes. Fact. Now Raila wants to change it. He's just keeping a promise. Fact. But Ruto is opposed to changing something he violently opposed. Weird. Mr. Ruto, sir, Kenyans are watching your flip-flops.
I support William Ruto and Uhuru Kenyatta. But I'm afraid that today Raila Odinga is making more sense to me than Ruto. Yes, Ruto has won the 2022 argument, but Raila will win the 2022 war. And this is because politics is seduction. Like in romance, if you hold on to someone too much, you suffocate them and lose them. But if you free them, they will come back and find you. By holding too tightly to 2022, Ruto is suffocating those who love him, and he will lose them. But if he lets 2022 go, it will find him. And this is what Raila Odinga has done. He has let 2022 go, and now he is seducing the country with a referendum. And because he let go, we will make him ceremonial president in 2022 or even earlier, who knows? But I have one last submission to make. The 2022 election will not happen under the current constitution. Zero, it won't happen. We will have a new constitution, and If this submission is true, why is Ruto campaigning for a presidential position that will not exist in 2022? Has he turned himself into the philosophical blind man in a dark room chasing a black cat which is not there? Huh?
And now, our final thought. It goes to William Ruto from two unlikely sources. According to Jay-Z, when I look in the mirror, I see my only opponent. And to this, Kanye West adds, I am my only competition. I don't compete with anyone. I only compete with myself. To William Ruto, therefore, there is no point competing with Raila. Ruto is his own opponent. And to win, Ruto must only compete with Ruto. We have another thought. When Coca-Cola appointed a new CEO, his team told him that Pepsi Cola was their biggest headache. Then he asked them a question. When people are thirsty, what do they drink? The team replied, they drink Coke, Pepsi, coffee, lemonade, tea, and water. Inspired by this answer, the CEO declared, Pepsi then is not the problem. The other alternatives are the problem. To beat the alternatives, he decided to place a Coca-Cola refrigerator in every conceivable corner of the world. He made Coke available where tea, coffee, lemonade, and water were being sold. He did not compete with the opponent. He competed with the situation. Ruto should not compete with Raila. He should compete with the situation.